Zum, zum, the even of physics as evenerv nangor ubzm zum zum svi evenev physics as evenerv nangor ubzm zum zums svize evnav physics Io Evas Evnerv Nagor Obzum. What's your initial impressions about the seasonal chant I got there?
Well, a little dark here. I wrote, it is said that it is the brightest time of year. It's the brightest time of the year, full of life. Yet all I see is darkness and death. So sorry to be so dark there, but
well, it's actually not the it's not the brightest of the seasonals. It's actually one of the darker half of the ones. I mean, it's when the darkness starts to approach. But yeah, it's up there as far as those. So we have the word Fyiv Ezix, which is space. Other dimension. We have Evenev, male. We have Evenerv, female. We have I don't have all the words here. I mean, I don't have the full translation of the chant as such. As I come across the words, I'll let you know. But at least that's a few of them, right?
Right.
So so this actually has 22, and as you know, 22 is an important number because you've just gone beyond the 21 paths. Between 7 points, you get 21 paths, and then the 22nd is, I guess, the extra path to Earth. So we have 8 owl beads. Not sure how well you can see that, but that's
pretty.
An owl. And so
really nice.
So for the punishment, the punish it portion, this is the thing.
Okay, I got you.
I mean, this is my thing here. And don't worry, folks at home, it makes more sound than you think it feels like. And I have a ring, and it's going to be in a similar area, and hopefully I found my ring. But in the past, you can look at the previous Litha videos, and you'll see that ring has been there probably the whole time that my channel has been on. I don't think I had it in my 2011 trip to Mount St. Helens, although I don't think there's any video about that trip. My camera was not good enough to shoot footage there, but we have you know, the chant. Now I've shown a few different translations, you could say, of this, but we have the so this is carnelian point. I don't have, this is not real gold. I would you know, I'm if I acquired something like that, it wouldn't be because I've spent $2,000 for a chain, for some golden chain or whatever they are nowadays.
Okay.
Okay, is this it? Yeah, this looks like it.
The long file.
And
Been
so Lum Tivab Havaksleeve Wo Kilti Hazi Rumzepti, the heaven and hell of the gray or grays, is with the presence of a sergeant who tests and trains with knowledge of the edges of terms and transcendence. So that's one way we can translate the Temple of Blood chant that I've been using. And so we had the, you know, we had the 88 times chant, being the 8 words. I've discussed recently in a program a context for 88, and 14 as well. I've discussed some meanings behind that. Some people have their own, and what people's own beliefs and intentions. They can put whatever on my rituals. I do a lot of translating, you could say, using different currents and all. But I remain myself. I don't, you know. And of course, my 14 words chant. We must strive for the existence and future of our people and our children. And to show you, you know, to make sure that this shows up correctly, am I showing up right in the
Yeah.
So we have 2 runes here. We have the rune for defense and the rune for homeland. And of course, you know, you got to look after your own first. Different meanings that can be ascribed. You could say that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 runes. So that would be the water, the, you know, the 6-fold mystery. The 333, when everything goes dark. In the first few minutes, you get a third of your night vision. An additional 30 minutes, you get the second third of your night vision. And after an additional 3 hours, you get your full night vision. So if you can sit for 3 hours in the dark, or if you can wake up and see before you turn on the lights, if you can take some advantage over that. I know you don't necessarily want to hurt yourself holding it, preventing yourself from going to the bathroom or whatever. But just take a minute or figure out how to do that. And, you know, ideally, you want to occasionally get to the point where, you know, you can meditate you can do ritual for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 33 minutes. And you can get that. But so, and red in particular, if you have no other color to do it, it's kind of best to use the colors of red, white, and black because of the pituitary, thalamus, and pineal. You know, pituitary for red, pineal for white, and thalamus for black. The ancient Egyptians, at times, that was the symbolism that they used. It's very important to use symbolic thinking when you can. And that impetus, that internal impetus of the, you know, it's almost like some sort of weird garden tool overall. If you have no idea about the shape or something, it's you know, it's like all these sigils. Look at that stuff first. What does it kind of look like? And, you know, so without going any further into that, do you have any more conception of the seasonal? I mean, of the season in general before we go over the chant that I have composed in regards to it.
I've read that it was like a fire festival and a water festival. What do you think about that? Is it like fire and the water?
Well, very commonly, it was a symbolic time for marriage, a symbolic time for development. And so you would naturally have some of that merge. And depending on how people divided up the years, you that was one of the things going on there.
I'd also read
so yeah, well, it's obvious, you can see the year in terms of darkness. So at the summer solstice, which is when I felt like this is the best time for me to narrow down and doing something specific, Temple of Blood related is Obsum is okay. Impulses, pregnancy, closes, opens up possibility. Okay, and Avuz is time track, fortune, or method. And summer, Zimz is summer. So 3 Z's with 2 M's in the middle is the word for summer. So Savizi, Uyu, and Nagor, we're not quite having the meaning for that quite yet.
Okay.
I think they might be a combination between 2 things. But let's go over the chant that and by the way, so the reading that I have displayed and what I shared this month is factored into it, specifically False Prophet issue number 1 and issue number 3, Predator 6, 7, and 8. Well, 8, it's called a counterintelligence issue, so I don't know if that, I do think they're going to release another issue. I'm not entirely sure, but it sounded like from the one issue that they were going to release another issue. So I don't know when it could be another year or something before it comes out, and that's perfectly fine. But anyways, so those 3 issues I have factored into it. And I guess you could say because Court of Ahaz, that book references what somebody did with Iron Gate and some other stuff, and an issue of Predator, and that wasn't published yet. And so I think that is, I factored a little bit of that into this. So
I've been reading a lot about those that you just mentioned.
And in my comments, I not in the programs that I do with these, I'm not reading them out. So some of the stuff, I'm following the dots and saying, okay, what is this? Where's this? What is this over here? And that, that sort of stuff. And so to get into and I worked in, as I said, I'm working in some of the Church of Hermetic Science stuff. So so the Feraferia movement and Church of Hermetic Sciences, which isn't the same thing, but they're kind of connected. The Feraferia and the Order Template, or because so his book on the 9 seasonal things, he doesn't quite have the dates historically right, but as far as the theme, the general neo-pagan idea, that that's where that comes from. Of course, neo-pagan is a weird title to take on, considering what it means, and people should know what it means if they've done any research. But beside those issues, so we have won in the night with the pulse of our fight. As the created forces are wed, we pollinate by longest light. The blue and golden gates are opened by the increasing might. The diamond of our kingdom bears the crown beyond blight. The disproportionate features of the tikbalong, Tapra, and Manan an Angal move with us, and were not in fright, separated by oneself from the mundanes and their idealized situation? Not quite. Our trainers know how to make us tight, straining and applying like a kite that feeds unexpectedly as we dight. We are enacting what they write. Some are alone in their plight. We have survived as something else to break through boundaries, as is our right. The dead and a causal, celestial, telestial, terrestrial, and the infernal have their delight. Dark ones come to earth at the height. We are among them in our very might. A physical transfer is affected in and beyond the right. Are you ready for the dread light? Fully triggered, it is beyond sight. Pulse through the trance all bright. This is their name from the stars. And so some of that will become clearer once we get to the once those programs that on those books have been released.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I could relate to a lot of that.
And some of that stuff you can look up as Polynesian. So I have a Polynesian pot. I have 9 flames, 9 white flames that I'm going to use in the program, and I can't pull up the graphic, because if I switch the graphic over, it disappears off the screen, so you're not going to see that. But I'll send you the file. I'll send you the file so you can see it. And then I took verses. That will tell us about that will address the whole Iblis thing. So here is this graphic. So I put that in the chat to show you the candles. So they're 1.5-hour candles. I think this right could be an hour long. I think could be longer. I don't know. So that's what I thought to draw my attention to. And to iterate letter wise, N would be 10, G would be 2, O would be 100,000, and R would be 5. And to give numbers to the other middle words, we have 4 being U, 3 being I, and 10,000 being W. And then we have S being 100, V being 7, I being 3, Z being a trillion. A one with 12 zeros is a trillion, right?
I believe.
Yeah. So that's how that would break down number wise, because we got number values for everything.
Right.
And so the verses that we would have here, so using this to do the readings from, I mean, it doesn't matter what translation as much, but we have Surah 2, A at 34, Surah 6, A at 44, Surah 7, A at 11, Surah 15, A at 31 and 32, Surah 17, A at 61, Surah 18, A at 50, Surah 20, A at 116, Surah 23, A at 77, Surah 26, A at 95, Surah 30, A at 12 and 49, Surah 34, A at 20, Surah 38, 74 and 75, and Surah 43, A at 75. And one of the things that we see there is that, so these are the Iblis verses where you see Iblis mentioned, and also where you see the root for Iblis mentioned in Arabic. So you end up with 16 verses. And so the 16th letter is the devil card in your typical tarot. So the 16th letter is the devil card. So that's interesting that you come up with that. And I've noticed a lot of things that you find some sort of sequence related that starts some sort of seasonal thing. It's that some sort of seasonal sequence will be started by a series of verses that you can relate to that season. The prostrations can said be started at the summer solstice. The verses about chapters can be said to start at the cross quarter in August, and then it closes by forming a ceiling and a floor. You got the verses of love by and for the ultimate a causal deity, and that's whatever. So there's other examples, and maybe I'll find something else in the future, but there's because I don't have something for all 8 in there. And speaking of, they have a 9th season, like, so they have like an extra seasonal after Samhain. They have a repose, which kind of coincides with the biblical fasting holiday. So in the Farah movement, they have 9 seasonal festivals, you could say. Now, these candle, the 9 the Polynesian candle you see that has the little, it has it has that star sort of thing, and it has the diamond that's off to the side, and I think the other side's the same. So it's a pot with a candle in it, and obviously I'll put another candle in there when that candle burns out.
Yeah.
But the other ones I have about an hour and a half, and they're supposed to be, they've decayed at different rates. These are these are I don't know, these are 10, 15 years old or something like that. So they've they've kind of decayed their appearance somewhat, but we'll see if they hold any of their flavor. Not flavor, but you know what I mean. They're
Yeah, they've aged well.
And vanilla, of course, is a symbolic blood. Now, I do like to have my festivals. I don't like the soapy chocolate because alkali produces the soap, and I can't get into health stuff here, but whatever. You can look at that up and find that out yourself. But the thing about so symbolic blood, symbolic flesh, and I don't know. I got cranberry here. I have grape juice. I have other stuff, so I'm not sure what I'm going to have. But anyways, I try to reserve, at least for my seasonals, I try to have some sort of red juice, a berry juice, something that I use. And I like to offer, for example, in November, not November, I like for milk, because that means to use milk. I like to offer some milk. And so I have powdered goat's milk, and I don't consume dairy, but you can apply it to your skin. You can, puff it in the air, whatever. And I don't, it doesn't take much to put a puff out there and whatever. So here, the verses that I've chosen to connect to are likewise from a very similar theme. And let's just give the English names for them. Numbers 22, verses 22 and 32. 1 Samuel 29:4, 2 Samuel 19:22, 1 Kings 5:4, 11:14, 11:23, 11:25, 1 Chronicles 21:1, Job chapter 1, verse 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, chapter 2, verse 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, Psalm 109, verse 6, Zechariah chapter 3, verse 12. And those are the verses of Ha-Shathon, the continual scourge. And there might actually be Ha-Sathon, which, if you remember my pentagram right, that is where it's at a peak. Because Ha-Shathon, I think they do that intentionally. It does not mean adversary, it means the continual scourge. And so, to address the mythology of those verses, and to make it to the Diabolos verses, I have chosen from, I'm going to use this. There are some variations between text, far more than here. Although you do have a lot of variations in here. I mean, between the text of the tonic text, the Christian side of the Bible has a lot of variations, but in general, you end up with Matthew 4:1, 4:5, 4:8, 4:11, 13:39, 25:41, Luke 4:2, 3, 5, 6, 13, and 8:12. And we have John 6:70, 8:44, 13:2, Acts 10:38 and 13:10, Ephesians 4:27 and 6:11, 1 Timothy 3:6, 7:11, 2 Timothy 2:26 and 3:3, Titus 2:3, Hebrews 2:14, James 4:7, 1 Peter 5:8, 1 John 3:8 and 10, Jude 1:9, Revelation 2:10, 12:9 and 12:20, verses 2 and 10. And I may have included a reference to using the word Satanas. But I think it's Diabolos is what my focus was. But I wanted to have everywhere where it was explicit about the mention of the devil. And of course, I was, And of course, in particular, to remind the folks out there, no, I don't have to disrespect or whatever, and I don't have to agree, whatever, but the art, particularly with the context, I'm not saying that, for example, Paul was a philosopher. I think it's very clear Paul was a philosopher, and he went back and forth, and he used Platonic and Aristotelian. He used a bit of Stoic. He used a bit of what could have been considered Socratic philosophy, but definitely used pre-Socratic philosophy. And then he told everybody not to philosophize. But I think he didn't really make a claim for being inspired. He made a claim of being provoked. He thought, as a good Christian, this is what a Christian would write, and what are Christian rules. And he said he felt called, but it wasn't the same. It's not the same thing as traditionally inspired would be. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure there's any whatever, but I don't consider, I'm not taking that side in the first place. So when I bring up a mythology, I'm using a mythology. Like, if I like a verse from whatever book, I can use that verse from whatever book. People are like right now, you're not on Twitter, so you don't. There's a huge deal because somebody quoted somebody, and somebody said that Voltaire said something, and it turned out to be somebody else. It's like, if it's a good quote, it's a good quote. Who cares who it's from? And that's what keeps society down. If they find any reason to criticize somebody, they're like, oh, you better adopt any good, any usable thing you got from them. And it's like, no. And I brought them out, but I'm going to show anything order of 9 angles related. Now, Temple of Blood goes outside order of 9 angles, but anything order of 9 angles related, it was very connected to start with. But after those first few issues of Predator, you really sort of break where it becomes almost unrecognizable in parts that you got the order of 9 angles influence, because you don't have the mentions of the particular things in most of the stories and papers and stuff. But so the 4-pointed star, the 4-pointed sides are the Platonic solids, the most primal. You got 720 degrees between the angles. So you have a common, like a double circle worth of angles. So, you got 60. And then, so at every corner, you got 60. Well, I mean, 60, 60, 60. And my seasonal, I try to bring this out for my seasonals. It's a calcite, maybe a citrine or something like that, or it's a quartz or something, whatever. So this also is a 4-sided one. So it's a very fire thing. All the seasonals are fire festivals, you could say. But they would say that the cross quarters are more fire related than the equinoxes and solstices. But the midsummer is more of a fire related, and also the winter is more fire related. So I mean, you can't really escape that sacred fire aspect, because, like, remember my way of looking at the seasons, my triplicity model. I have all the equinoxes and solstices, their attribute is the sun, and then I divide otherwise outside of that. So if it's an equinox or a solstice, every 8 points of the wheel, I use that. But now, to iterate here, one of the things that I'm not saying, for example, is the Temple of Blood does not require anything at any particular time of the year. If via a trainer or training, and that's just part of what you're doing as your group, whatever, you may have to have this particular time or day or whatever. I like using the whole 333. With my seasonals, I like the evening, because the evening is one of those times when the sun sets. You do a quick ritual, and then any extra stuff you're doing, it's a good time for that, because there's spirits coming forth, particularly as the night comes on. So you're part of that change, particularly when you're outside doing a ritual. You're part of that change. Now, I will not skip doing a ritual because it's outside, or because I can't do it in my temple or something like that. If I need to be silent, I will need to be silent.
Right.
And
Or get better outside also.
but so if we look, I mean, we'll go over some of this earlier, but so the first lines, we have won in the night with the pulse of our fight. As the created forces are wed, we pollinate by longest light. The blue and gold gates are opened by increasing might. The diamond of our kingdom bears the crown beyond blight. And that is very explicitly according to the, according to I bounced that off the Church of Hermetic Science material. And again, like people are like, oh, but this guy's obviously, it's like, well, it doesn't matter whether you consider somebody as, it's like we're having our own experiences and we're not competing about prophetic claims. It's about this impetus to action, hence the idea of the blood and the red in the center. It's like you're in between this, like how I have the chant on the flag. I have the flag is in black. And when the people who bought their banners online, their flags, their patches were also surrounded by black. So it's like this presence beyond this, we're surrounded by the causal entities. We're surrounded by whatever. It's not about any particular authority competition, because it's like as I pointed out, I'm not sure exactly when. There's more precise things later, like what happened in 2013 and 2003. But in 1996 is supposed to be the founding of the Temple of Blood that I've been told. There's multiple sources, and some of them are people, some of them are written. So, and then you hear with other, like the Order of Nine Angles, what is it, 70s? Maybe it was started in the 60s. So it's like, it's obviously not the most ancient thing, but it's, it represents something that can be referred to or translated through or whatever. And these next lines, the disproportionate features of the Tikbalong, Capra, and Manan and Ang all move with us, and we're not in fright, separated by oneself. Okay, that's basically very specifically to give in the whole Polynesian thing. And then the rest of it is very explicitly connected to the whole Temple of Blood thing. You got the causal current, you got the death current, you got the, the combination of the worlds, and the journey of the individual, and something's going to happen in the future. And maybe that's what you're picking up on a little bit, but